Please welcome back to the stage Dr. Edna Greene Medford.
That's quite a hike. Good evening again. Long before Georgia cast the last vote needed for adoption, the 13th Amendment was acknowledged by many, especially African Americans, as a foregone conclusion. Supporters confident that it would be ratified hosted celebrations throughout the North. Glorious news, slavery abolished from the Constitution, declared the front page of the February 4th, 1865 issue of the Christian Reporter, the official organ of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. We have the pleasure of chronicling in this issue of our paper the thrilling and joyous intelligence that on the last day of January 1865, the House of Representatives of the United States voted to amend the Constitution. The Lord be praised for his great work of reformation in the hearts of the American people. We know that this welcome news will gladden the hearts of all patriots and true lovers of God and humanity, freedom and liberty. Once more may the old State House bell ring forth in days of yore, proclaiming liberty throughout the land, proclaiming the martyrs of today have not cast their lives away in vain. A wild hum of joy comes to our ears on the dancing breeze as the bondsman's shackles fall, and we can almost hear the glad cry gushing out like a fountain from his heart. In the city of Philadelphia, where the Christian Recorder was published, the Colored People's Union League Association held a grand demonstration in March in honor of the amendment to the Constitution abolishing slavery in the United States. The event featured prominent speakers such as noted attorney John Rock. Music was furnished by a band and a children's chorus of 100 voices. Henry McNeil Turner, then serving as chaplain with the 25th Army Corps and stationed at recruiting headquarters in Smithville, North Carolina, reported in February that he had likely never witnessed a day in which more pleasing streams of intelligence ran all at the same time into my soul than I have today. Part of Turner's joy came from having received nearly 2 months' mail and several dozen newspapers. But he was most elated over the progressive developments which are fast rolling the colored race to the harbor of their God-given rights, the port where unbiased justice and eternal equality will pavilion them from the ruthless fangs of slavery and all its accursed retinue. I can scarcely tell how to tender that profound debt of gratitude to the God of all favors, which one must impulsively feel, who is endeavoring to devote his time, talents, and life to the accomplishments of these very objects. While celebrating returning Black soldiers in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania in November, the Reverend J. Walker Jackson offered a prayer in which he thanked God who has given us the victory. The Lord of emancipation is by the will of the sovereign people, the law of the land. He asked that God hasten the glad day of universal liberty, when all would be equal before the law. But perhaps the most remarkable commemoration of the passage of the amendment was a public religious service held in the Capitol building with its sermon delivered by a former slave. On February 12th, just days after the amendment's passage by the House, Henry Hiram Garnett, pastor of the influential 15th Street Presbyterian Church of the District of Columbia, spoke before a racially mixed audience about slavery and the need to finish Congress's work. Years before, Garnett had outraged members of both races when he called for the enslaved to take up arms and strike for your lives and liberties. He would later found the African Civilization Society, whose purpose was to encourage immigration to Africa, where he believed people of color could find self-determination and advancement. The first African American to speak in the Capitol building, Garnett thanked the legislators for their recent actions to destroy slavery. In the name of God, he invoked the blessings of millions to whom a new and better life has been opened by your humanity, justice, and patriotism, and whose deed has been recorded in the archives of heaven. To the nation, he pleaded that it let slavery die. It has had a long and fair trial. Its death warrant is signed by God and man. Do not commute its sentence. Give it no respite, but let it be ignominiously executed. As commemorations and celebrations declared victory won, abolitionist societies debated whether or not to disband. Not all agreed that their work was complete. In response to such a proposal, Frederick Douglass declared that abolition would not automatically lead to full equality, his definition of true freedom. Slavery is not abolished until the black man has the ballot, he suggested. While the legislatures of the South retain the right to pass laws making any discrimination between black and white, slavery still lives there. While the black man can be denied a vote, while the legislatures of the South can take from him the rights to keep and bear arms, the work of the abolitionist is not finished. Douglass's words were prophetic. By the time the amendment was ratified and had been added to the Constitution, states of the former Confederacy had passed black codes that severely circumscribed the lives of African Americans by providing for coerced labor in cases of alleged vagrancy and when unable to pay fines imposed for certain misdemeanors. They were restricted in their equal access to the courts, denied a political voice, and in some states prohibited from acquiring land that would have permitted them economic independence. Most egregiously, they were subject to having their children taken from them through the system of apprenticeship. Rather than immediately placing African Americans on an equal footing with the rest of the American family, the 13th Amendment represented a beginning. It gave national acknowledgement of the inhumanity and injustice of slavery and provided a legal instrument to challenge it. It was not a universal remedy for the social, economic, and political ills that African Americans had experienced since their forced arrival in America. Yet it strengthened the crusade for true freedom. In the immediate post-war period, African Americans benefited from adoption of two other amendments. One granted citizenship and secured due process, while the other guaranteed voting rights. Through the next several generations, the struggle for full inclusion continued, characterized by soaring triumphs and crushing reversals. And while we are certainly not where we should be or want to be, the fact that we're in this place, a venue that in 1939 denied access to the famed contralto Marian Anderson, is only one of many testaments to the tenacity of generations of African Americans and our continuing determination to secure the promise of equality for all.